Shri Baba Kalyani is the Chairman and Managing Director of Bharat Forge Limited, flagship company of the Kalyani Group, a leading engineering conglomerate headquartered in Pune. Kalyani Group companies have joint ventures with several global MNCs. Bharat Forge Limited is today widely acknowledged as the #1 forgings company in the world, with the largest repository of metallurgical knowledge in the region and capability to supply sophisticated high-technology components to almost every leading OEM across automotive, oil and gas, railways, marine, mining, and aerospace sectors. Shri Kalyani, I request you to please deliver the industry address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Chief of Defence Staff, General Rawat. Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Karambir Singh. Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhaduria. Our dear friend Nitin Gokhale, the head of Bharat Shakti. His team here at Bharat Shakti, invited defense attaches, people from the services, from the MOD, and from the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here this morning. This is my second time that I have been at a Bharat Shakti event. And if I see how this event is progressing and the kind of outcomes that it produces from the thoughts that we hear from, as we heard from the Air Chief and from the Naval Chief, and the response that industry generates in between, it is amazing. And I'll dwell on a couple of these things in my small talk. But before that, I think we are holding this conclave at one of the most difficult times in human history. The COVID-19 pandemic, although we take it as business as usual, it is really not business as usual. It is something that has impacted the globe, impacted every country, and will continue to impact this for some more time to come. The only bright spot that I heard this morning was the vaccine that was announced by Pfizer, which has apparently a 90% efficacy rate. And if that comes out, then there is a hope and a solution in place. But what this has created in the past 8-9 months, ever since, at least in India, ever since March, is a highly volatile, uncertain period pertaining to everything. It's not just our services, not our armed forces, not our industry, not our governance system. In almost everything that we do, it has created a highly volatile and uncertain situation. Our schools are closed, our kids cannot go to school. There's going to be millions of children who are going to lose a year of their education. And it is in this environment that we are having this conclave. So, my heartiest congratulations to Nitin Gokhale, to Bharat Shakti, and their team for holding this. And it's very important to have conclaves like this in periods of this time. Everybody, I believe, in our country and in most countries in the world, in the last 8 to 10 months, have learned many, many new things. Let me give some examples of what we have learned in India. Most of us, for the first 3-4 months, when the lockdown was in effect, we were working from home. That doesn't mean we were holidaying. We were all working. And everybody learned to move to digital technology, to use digital technology very, very effectively. And when I look back today, compared to the beginning of this year, the use of digital technology that we do in our businesses, in our companies, I think Admiral Karambir Singh mentioned about the use of digital technology in the Navy, and I'm sure it's the same situation in the armed forces or in the Air Force and in every other space. This has dramatically increased our understanding of digital technology, dramatically increased our levels of productivity. I think the productivity increase has been at a factor of 2 or 3 times, and it has allowed us to start thinking of a lot of new things. So just like in the United States, when World War II happened, it started with a soldier on a horseback in 1939 and ended in 1945 with nuclear fission. I think India is on a similar journey in terms of technology, in terms of self-reliance, in terms of creating capability in the area of defense and defense requirements. Be it hardware, be it software, be it artificial intelligence based, be it, autonomous systems, drones, UAVs. I mean, all this is going to come very, very rapidly. We started an organization called the Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers Association. That was after the Honorable Prime Minister gave a call for Make in India in 2014 December. And after that, there have been several initiatives taken by the government to bring in a series of policy initiatives and changes to bring a greater level of self-reliance and indigenous manufacturing. And this is now beginning to bear fruit. And the latest call that the Prime Minister gave of Aatmanirbhar Bharat, and I think we need to understand what Aatmanirbhar Bharat means. Aatmanirbhar Bharat doesn't mean that we put a protective shield around ourselves and sit in a cage. Aatmanirbhar Bharat fundamentally means that we need to be capable of doing things that we were not capable of doing before. We need to be capable of defending our borders where we were not able to do before. India has a long history where, if you look at 1,000 years ago, India was ruled by first the Mongols, then the Ghaznavis, then the Mughals, and then the British. And I'm sure as Indians, we want to see a nation that is strong and self-reliant. And industry is responding to this in a most amazing manner. 5 years ago, most industries, big, small, otherwise, who were engaged in manufacturing defense hardware, defense equipments, were largely looking at responding to tenders, responding to RFIs, to RFPs, and trying to get a partner from somewhere, whether you knew what that equipment was or you understood what it is. The system was based on somehow working to get ownership of that request for quotation or request for information. Today, most industries have kind of switched their tracks and are working on developing products that are required for the future on their own, working with the DRDO organizations, working with the services. We have tremendous openness on the services, whether it's the Army, whether it's the Navy, whether it's the Air Force. Inability to talk, inability to communicate, inability to have conversations, and through this, get a clear understanding of what the roadmap of their requirements is for the future. You heard the Air Chief, you heard the Naval Chief talk about some of these things just now. And this has given industry their own roadmap. A company like us that's in the business of beating metal, हम लोहार काम करते हैं, हिंदी में बताएं तो. This is one of the oldest industries in the world, metal forming. It was there thousands of years ago. You heard of the swords made in Damascus. They were all made by beating hot metal. Artillery guns are also made by beating hot metal. So are small arms. So are many products that are required by the defense forces. But today, we beat metal, but we are then able to add a lot of sensors, embedded software, AI-based systems, smart controllers, all kinds of things in this on our own. And 5 years ago, that was not possible. We didn't even believe that we had this capability. And this is so with many of our industry friends here who are sitting and participating in this hall. I mean, in less than 5 years, they have created capability that we could not even dream of 5 odd years ago. And therefore, I am very convinced as an industry representative here that 5-7 years from now, our capability will develop exponentially, not linearly. It will develop exponentially in many areas. And today, our forces are fighting a two-edged war on our fronts. And I think we have to recognize and salute them for keeping India's sovereignty, India's integrity intact. It's a very, very difficult terrain. We had, as a company, the opportunity to supply some vehicles to operate at 18,000 feet in that region. And we had sent 4 of our young engineers. They are in their 30s. They had never been outside Pune, ever in their lives. And here they are at 18,000 feet. They landed. Their oxygen was about 70%. Of course, the army helped them get the system back to in the 90s. But they stayed there for a month. They drove the vehicle, they maintained the vehicle, they allowed the army to exploit the vehicle. And they did it because they had this sense of pride that I'm an Indian company, and I want to do something for my nation. And this is the kind of, energy that has come in India after all the changes and after everything that we see. And once you have this kind of positive energy, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Once you have this positive energy, that nation comes first and you want to do things for the nation, then nothing is going to stop us from being self-reliant. The advantage of this for our neighbors, for the defense attaches that are here, is this will also allow India to produce a lot of products, a lot of equipment at a very, very competitive cost. And not only very competitive costs, but if you look at life cycle costs of equipment, most equipments that are used in defense end up going in for some amount of modernization, retrofit, refit, whatever it is, upgrades. And as Indian organizations become self-reliant, have their own intellectual property, own IP, the cost of doing this will be a fraction of the cost that is today being paid to the existing system. So there are multiple advantages that will come out of creating this domestic self-reliant industry. From an industry, as an industry representative, I would like to tell our services and all of you here that we have a large amount of capabilities within each one of us. We have a huge budding young ecosystem of startups in the area of defense. We ourselves are connected with almost 7 startups in defense. We are working in areas of artificial intelligence. We are working in areas of cybersecurity. We are working in cognitive technologies. So there is nothing that is going to be outside our domain in the next few years. And therefore, we are very happy to work and be of assistance as a supplier, as a partner to our neighbors. Maybe work together, as Admiral Karambir Singh said, on projects and build a good ecosystem that will benefit all of us. With these few words, I would like to thank Nitin Gokhale for inviting me here. A great opportunity to be with our chiefs of our services and all of you colleagues here. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.